Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so good. Actually, I'm taking the opposite view respect what we hear from Fraser and Peter. So the opposite view is that, so I mean, the basic point is that the criticism based on the difference in the physical support between humans and artificial machines, or even based on the difference between in the mechanisms between humans and artificial machines, I find that these criticisms are very weak, very weak. I mean, I let's say as a premise that I would like very much that you were right in saying that there is, let's say, a demarcation, strong demarcation between humans and intelligent machines. But unfortunately, I mean, I say that with sadness that I'm afraid that actually there isn't, and so I'll try here to argue a position that could be summarized as sort of the point of view of Kurzweil. That is, I mean, strong artificial intelligence program that we could say. So this is what I'm going to argue in this. Okay. So the first point is, let's look at some implications of the Turing test. An important implication is what matters is the answer. So what is the answer that we receive when we, you know, in the Turing test, when we ask and try to find differences between a human and the machine. So the focal point is that what matters is the answer, is not how is made, what is the matter, what is the mechanism driving to the answer. I think that this is the real crucial point of the Turing test. So the practical behavior and not who is there on the other side. And this is somehow related to connectionism. No? I mean, decades ago, connectionism argued that there is no any homunculus in human's mind. And that was basically argued with respect to the question of memory. That time was where is memory reside in the human brain, and so the idea is that there were special parts of the human brain where memory was placed, and then at the very end it came that there is no any special place. It's a question of configurations. Configurations that are activated when we activate memory, and we are doing nothing else than activating configurations. And my idea is that consciousness is something very similar. That is, we feel conscious, we have the effect of what we describe as consciousness by activating configurations. And I mean, this is more or less also the proposal made by Antonio Damasio, for instance. Now, there is the idea of configurations. That is, what is behind configuration is, especially when we look at the recognition of configuration and the retention of configuration. That is what Damasio, I think it can be called mapping, the ability of make maps, and in particular self maps. So mapping on our own set of perceptions, let's go, or let's say network, I mean, configurations of perceptions. So if we want to find a difference between, on one side, what has been developed for memory, memory as configurations, and on the other side, consciousness as configurations, is that in one case is we are dealing with internal mapping. In the other case, there is memory and consciousness. In the other case, we are looking at, for example, in the case of meaning, we are looking and dealing with external mapping. I don't know if you remember, too long to talk, maybe in the discussion. I mean, what was also the idea advanced by Lutz, Lutz Ladesdorff, of the meaning. What is the meaning? Meaning is, in his proposal, was a correlation matrix between different people. But let's say that is, we can reformulate it in terms of, because a matrix is homomorphic to a network. A matrix and networks can be translated one into the other, and a network is just a graph, as well, homomorphic with the graph. So we can call it also again as a mapping. The difference is that when we are dealing with consciousness and memory, we are dealing with internal mapping, while when we are dealing with the meaning, we need to take into account the external world. So it is also involved the external, and so external mapping. So the point is, does the physical world really, physical support really matters? According to the Turing test, no, doesn't matter. Of course, I mean, in all the mind-body research and clinical approach would say no, that would say that yes, it matters. And actually, this is the critical point, that it seems to me that is coming again in the previous two presentations, that are very interesting. But the point is coming out always into the same issues. Are machines similar to us or not? But if we really stay strict to the Turing test, this is not so important, or indeed, it's not important at all. What is important, if they can do what we do, if they can answer what we answer, if they can solve the problem that we try to solve, if they can move into the world as we move, etc., etc. So the artificial intelligence strong program would say every sensory motor or proprioceptive experience can be reduced at the very end to signals, so digital codification. So at the very end, the computer program. So at the very end, it doesn't matter if it's biological or artificial. So we can insist as much as we want to say the silicon is not the carbon base, it cannot do the same things, but
no.
My impression is that neuronal processes that now are already available are actually a demonstration that the physical support is neutral, because you can use a chip to expand or to integrate brain functions. And so this could be taken as an example. I see that Peter disagree. I would like to hear him. I mean, because he's much more expert than me in neurophysiology. So absolutely. But I mean, the impression is that it could be an example of this. So Peter will say arguments against this. I will be listening. So the point is that if we see it singularity, I mean there are many definitions, but if we look at it as the moment in which artificial intelligent machines can, even more if embodied in robots, this is something that they are that is already undergoing. You know, the combining, making a sort of embodied cognition that so far, as even Peter recalled before, it was referred to humans. I mean, embodied cognition, embodied in humans. Now the step is embodied in robots, not in humans, so in another support. And so being able to do things in the real world, actions in the material world, and even to self-produce. By the way, I wouldn't be so um, so I think that the question that raised before about the complexity of the supply chain to self-produce by robots is not so, again, it's not so strong. It's just question of time. So let's go fast to the end. I mean, in the idea, at least in the idea of Kurzweil, the and what is corresponding, let's say. So not only the brain, but even the perceptions, the whole stock of emotions also and perceptions that we have. I mean, Kurzweil idea is that it could be totally transferred in a digital support, not so far in the future. I mean, something that is coming in few years. It can be, let's say, cable in a digital support, in electronic support. So bring in everything. So in that case, the demonstration of equivalence is complete. So okay, the support is a digital, is electronic, but it is containing all the memories, the consciousness, etc. That now is in the biology, because it could be digitalized. This is his idea. I mean, another author that I found very interesting in this debate is Rodney Brooks, and he's a supporter of the idea actually of the mix between artificial and biological. That is something that is going to be a question of degree. So in the future, by the way, there is a interesting literature in the juridical studies. So what will be the point at which we are not more dealing with a human being, but we are dealing with something else? I mean, if your heart can be replaced by an artificial heart, if your arms can be replaced by prosthetic artificial arms, if the liver the same, if part of the brain will be as well replaced by artificial parts. So then when will be the point in which we will say that will be dealing with the machines and not more with the human being? No? And this is a very interesting juridical debate. And it's totally related with our debate in what is actually science. So final slide. Somehow if this were true, and I know that you don't think so. I mean, at least who intervened, I mean, Fraser and Peter. But if this were true, then the question of the opposition would paradoxically lose sense, because we might all be made of the same artificial support. In a first, let's say, a transition stage, we could say that the difference is that some of us would have born as biological and others as artificial, but only in a transition stage. Because if all of us, if every human being can be capable in a digital support, so then the consequence that is that the difference would vanish sooner or later. And that's exactly the idea proposed by Kurzweil. In a certain sense, this outcome would also vanish the perspective of, let's say, the Terminator's prophecy, the Skynet and the battle between humans and robots and Skynet, because at the very end we would be all the same type of thing. Let's say it in this. Oh, I mean, could it be called a new species or not? This could be also something interesting to be debated. In Kurzweil's perspective, the answer is yes. There will be a new species that will replace our human Homo sapiens species. Finish.
Wow. We probably need another session to do the debate. Let's hear Igor and then Lou before we start arguing with each other.
Can I just say something quick about cochlear implants?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, I agree, Lucio, I agree with a lot of what you're saying as far as robotic devices and mixed human machine devices and things like that. It's just that you can't just wave your hand and say that, oh, we're going to put this representation into the brain without looking at the nature of the signals. And so a lot of I believe that cochlear implants could be every bit as good or better than cochleas, but you've got to get the mapping right. You've got to get the signals of the system right. And there's a naivete out there about how easy that is and how straightforward that is. And people have not figured it out. Cochlear implants don't do well with music. They're horrible at pitch discrimination and timbre discrimination. So the question is, how do you make them like the biological inputs? But I agree with you that in principle, there's no reason why they couldn't be just as good as biological cochleas.
Lucio said that it can do everything, anything, so including making love, right? And then reproduce. Ego, please.
Perceptions.
Good. Let me start by letting you know that we are in a Turing test. One of the participants is actually a non-human. Try to identify him or her. It's a him, right? Okay.
We have a Zoom Robert here actually. The Robert will generate a report to you later. You will all see.
Okay. So let's